Hey everybody, I'm Big Mike, and like always, I'd like to thank you for being here today. Today we've got Ray Burchett here to talk about intuitive development for traders, and we also have John Hoagland from TopstepTrader. It's actually because of TopStep that Ray is doing the presentation today. So at the top of the webinar, we're going to spend 5 or 10 minutes just real briefly talking about TopstepTrader, and then we're going to turn things over to Ray for the bulk of the webinar. And what Ray wants to talk about today is basically how to examine your performance with intuitive function. And he's got a lot of really great bullet points. And for any of you guys that know me well enough, you know that I just love this stuff. This is where I live and breathe. This is where I do all my work and put all my effort in order to improve myself as a trader. So I'm very excited about the webinar today. Ray's been trading for 25 years. So I know that he's got a lot of very valuable information, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Before I turn things over to John, I want to mention just a couple of things. First of all, the webinar is recorded. They always are. And it'll be posted sometime tomorrow on BMT in the usual spot. Just click webinars at the top of any page. Second, as you guys have questions for John at TopStep, just type them in, and we're going to get those questions answered before we turn things over to Ray. But Ray has asked that any questions for him during the main presentation be held until the end of the presentation so that he can get through all of this material, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. And the last thing I want to say is that if I could just get you guys to direct your attention to the homepage of bigmiketrading.com, you'll see that we've got something like 15 webinars on the schedule right now. And, I know that most of you know this, but these webinars take a lot of time to put on, both for me as far as arranging all the scheduling and finding the presenters, sometimes at great expense. And then, of course, for the presenter, all the time it takes for them to put together the actual slides and the presentation and the time out of their trading day. So I really hope that you guys are looking at all these webinars and giving them the attention that they deserve. And if you guys want to share them with your trading buddies, I would appreciate it. You can always find the list of current events on the home page or by clicking webinars on any BMT page. Okay, guys, give me 1 second, and I'll be turning things over to John.
All right. Thank you, Big Mike. Just a brief introduction of myself. My name is John Hoagland. I'm the Senior Trading Scout here at TopstepTrader. I have coming around to a 30-year history in the industry, not to mention a long family history in the industry. I've done everything from the bottom to the top. Been a proprietary trader, self-funded trader, affiliate broker. And now I am currently working with TopstepTrader. Just to tell you a little bit about TopstepTrader and our company and process. TopstepTrader is a global trader talent scouting and development agency that offers a unique opportunity to traders all around the world. Traders of all experience levels are welcomed and offered 2 weeks in training to familiarize themselves with the trading platform and the tools offered here at TopstepTrader. We currently offer the CTS T4 platform for use in the training and in the combine and live accounts, and we will be implementing the NinjaTrader platform very shortly, hopefully within the next week or two, possibly 3. There is no deposit or charge required at the trial level. Participants are offered many of the trader development tools that are available at TopstepTrader, including the interactive chat room community, live market broadcast, trading classes, an opportunity to speak with one of the trading scouts, and, of course, access to real-time market data. Once familiar with the tools, TopstepTrader offers a membership program to anyone who is interested in further development. A member will receive a non-reviewable practice account with updated trade reports viewable on our website so the trader can track their performance before entering the combine. Additionally, members will receive access to free coaching sessions once a month and also deeply discounted combine refundable deposits when they are prepared for joining the combine or the evaluation period. The membership is not required before entering the combine. But once you have become confident in your use of the platform and feel you're ready to test your skills under a performance evaluation, it's time to enter the combine and show us you can trade. The combine offers accountability in your trading unlike any other program or simulated trade. Scouts will be evaluating your trading ability, looking for discipline, consistency, and profitability. The required refundable deposit is the only skin in the game that the trader will have at this point, as the funded trading account requires no capital contribution on your part. The combine provides a trading environment that will prepare you for the live trading mindset. It will increase your mental capital and focus to remain receptive to the market information and not on what you think you need or want from the market. Meet the minimum scouting criteria for the combine of your selection, and you will be eligible for a refundable deposit, or you can roll your deposit into a new combine so you can continue to develop your skills and work towards reaching the profit target to earn your funded account. This is a way for TopstepTrader to retain and develop talent. Many of us have funded an account with 5 or 10,000 only to learn some very difficult lessons, and in the end only end up closing the account due to continuous trading losses. We encourage traders who do not meet the requirements to continue in the program to further increase their aptitude for trading. Trading is a never-ending journey of learning and adapting, and TopstepTrader aims to help nurture that educational experience. For those with the skills and the trading prowess, the combine offers the opportunity to develop and trade your way to a fully funded account. It's up to you. In the combine, we say, don't tell us you can trade, show us you can trade. And Mike, if there are any questions, maybe we should talk about them now before I go ahead and introduce Ray.
Okay, thanks, John. And I want to mention that I see a lot of people talking about the combine lately on BMT, and I've always been interested in the service that you provide. I think it's actually a really, really great idea to hold traders accountable and give them that extra incentive that a lot of them need, to really kick it into gear and get their trading going. So I appreciate you guys. And I also want to mention just real quick that John has been on BMT several times, and people always love his webinars, and he's going to be back on, I think, Thursday the 18th for an order flow webinar. So if you're a fan of John, then come back and check that webinar out too. All right, guys, so let's see. We got a couple questions. Kevin wants to know, he was in TopStep last winter. Can he still use the code on the screen?
No, right now the codes. Well, it says new members only. If you've never been a member before, I don't see why that would be a problem.
Okay. Karen wants to know, can you touch on what you and Eddie do during this on the Squawk radio that you guys provide?
Okay, the Squawk radio broadcast is focused on trying to keep traders focused on market information. We do talk about the things that are going on the floor in several markets. We are positioned right between the S&P and the Dow pit on the trading floor. So we broadcast the floor action on the opens and throughout the day when players do come into the market, into the pit. We let you know what players are executing, what quantities, what side of the market. This can be helpful information for you. It's one of the last ways you can be sure and know who is executing in these markets. It's very difficult to see in the dome. We also try and keep the traders kind of focused. There are several different trading pits in the chat room that are focused in different areas. There's an energies pit, there's an equities pit, there's metals, there's currencies, and the conversation in those pits is largely between the participants. They are sharing ideas, sharing levels, sharing analysis techniques, and this is all monitored and encouraged, and the information is constantly flowing through the broadcast into these trading pits as to levels to keep an eye out for, and of course there is breaking news that is broadcast through the through the chat room into all the trading pits. So as things develop worldwide, that news is broadcast into the chat room as well.
Right. Okay. Futures operator wants to know, and guys, I want to just remind everybody, we're going to keep these questions brief so that Ray has the bulk of the time. But quickly, can you tell futures operator what the requirements are to get a funded? Oh, I'm sorry. He wants to know what the requirements are to get a refund for a combine.
Okay, we have specific trading metrics that we're looking for the participants in the combine to adhere to. They are an average win over average loss, win percentages daily throughout the combine. Trade duration times should be longer for the win side than the loss side, and a profit of $1 will earn you a refund or a rollover in the combine.
Right. And then to actually get a funded account, you have a performance goal that you have to meet, and that's all on the website, right?
Right. Yeah. To qualify for the funded account, you have to meet the trading metrics and also reach a profit target.
Right.
Now the trading metrics are pretty standard. We do allow people to apply for a custom evaluation. If there is a metric that does not suit their trading strategy, we allow them to let us know what they're looking to do, and we are willing to be a little bit flexible with that. We are definitely looking to try and help people have the situation that helps them succeed. So,
right. Okay. And then let's make the next question the last one, and we'll turn things over to Ray. So Vance asks, is it how many traders get funded, based on how many actually apply? Is it like trading in general where 90% of people fail? What kind of numbers are we looking at here?
Well, I don't have that number handy right now. I would imagine it's probably similar to industry standards, but we are funding, lately it seems like several traders every week. So, we are seeing an increased amount of success for people that have been in the program, people that are paying attention to the trading metrics that we're looking for. I speak to all of them, and I can't tell you how many of them have been like, thank you for the metrics, thank you for the combine. I never thought that my trading would reach this level. So it seems to be working pretty well.
I think that every individual trader has to ask themselves, first of all, is the combine right for them? Do they need someone else's money, either for financial reasons or even just psychological reasons, to trade with someone else's money, or do they need the accountability that being in a structured program provides in order to get them to the next step? So, ask yourself that question, look at the rules, decide whether or not it's a good investment of your time and money, and if it is, go for it, right?
Absolutely. I think the accountability and the opportunity really helps people step into who they really are as a trader. Okay, guys. So if you have any other questions for TopstepTrader, you can check them out on their website at TopstepTrader.com. And John, is there an email address you want to give out? Yeah, you can send questions to support@TopstepTrader.com.
Okay.
And there's also information on the website on how to contact us as well.
Okay. All right. So let's go to Ray.
Okay. My friend Ray Burchett, the IDT program is one of the most important steps you can take while in our program. I think it's a very important step for any trader, is to complete the Intuitive Development for Traders, otherwise known as IDT, with Ray Burchett. Ray began trading his own account in 1983 and is a recognized expert in content and trader development at the CME. Ray has been a colleague and friend of mine for over 20 years. And in the field of trading integrity, knowledge, and skill, I feel his knowledge is unparalleled and that the IDT program is one of the most important studies any trader can be exposed to. The knowledge and practices you will take with you after this program can make the difference between success and failure as a trader. If you are already a trader enjoying a level of success, this can bring you to higher and higher levels of success. TST and our equity partner believes so strongly in the IDT program and think it is that important that our traders who have completed the IDT program as part of our program receive a higher starting percentage profit split at 65-35 than those who have not, which would be 60-40. So without further delay, I want to introduce Ray Burchett with the IDT program.
All right. Thank you very much, John. And here comes Ray.
Thank you.
Guys, can you hear me? And I'm going to put my screen up here. You guys just can confirm that you can see it, and we'll get started.
Yeah, we can see it and we can hear you. Thanks, Ray.
Perfect. Perfect. John, thanks for that kind intro. And Big Mike, thanks for your invitation to speak today. And I want to thank all of you that are out there listening for trusting me with your time. The presentation is going to be about 35 minutes, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the back end. Please know I'm open probably until about 5 o'clock, so there should be plenty of time to get everyone's questions answered. So we'll get started here. Linking high performance to intuitive function has opened up a gateway that's really allowing me to revolutionize how trader development performance are achieved and supported. All right. There's a lot going on with intuitive function. I'm just going to break it down here as best I can for you to get started. It starts by unconscious independent thought. And that allows us to tap into our creativity and imagination, to integrate our skill, knowledge, and experience. And that ends up providing us with the awareness we need to best anticipate and respond to price movement. Athletes compete intuitively, musicians perform intuitively, successful traders judge intuitively to develop that awareness they need to anticipate and respond to the dynamics driving price movement. Intuitive performance doesn't magically happen. It just seems that way because we have no conscious recollection of it occurring. It's only upon reflection afterwards that we begin to develop a conscious awareness for what we've accomplished. So we just really need to keep in mind that it truly is the product of all our good work, years of study and developing that knowledge and experience that truly manifests in the wisdom that we need to be successful as a trader. So most traders waste a lot of time and energy trying to figure out how best to support their development and performance. And linking intuitive performance, high performance to intuitive function takes the guesswork out by providing the guidance and clarity needed to make good progress towards becoming an effective trader. And intuitive development inspires and compels us. It's effective because it inspires and compels us to embrace the beliefs and assimilate the behaviors that we really need to best support our development and performance. Again, Big Mike and John both touched on the power of really understanding why we're doing what we're doing. And that's where intuitive development really focuses on. In other words, linking high performance to intuitive function creates the awareness to support that. So what I want to do is I want to take a moment to just run through what I believe best describes progression from a development through a trader becoming a consistent earner, and then we'll be able to come back to this at the end. A developing trader, they're still trying to find their way. Their aptitude and desire are not yet aligned. In other words, they're half in, half out. They're just still trying to figure out if it really is for them. A committed trader, aptitude and desire have aligned. And that allows them to get focused on putting together a framework that's really going to support their development and performance. And again, I always get asked, well, how long should this take, or how long should that take? And that's the last question you want to ask yourself, because it's absolutely irrelevant. In other words, we each bring our own aptitude and desire. We're each going to support it in our own unique way. So the only thing that really matters is examining your aptitude and desire, getting them to a point where they're aligned so you can go forward. And then once you go forward, understand, look, this is going to take a full-time commitment, and I'm all in to get to wherever I need to get to, to be successful. And transitioning traders are at that place. In other words, they've got that framework supporting their development and performance, and that's allowing them to consistently follow their capital risk management plan and their performance risk management plan. The interesting thing is most traders don't know that there's a performance risk management plan. They think it's the same thing as their capital risk management plan, and they're two entirely different things. And I would argue that the performance risk management plan is way more important than the capital risk management plan when you really understand the dynamics of trading. And then where we want to get to is we want to become that consistent earner. And traders that have become consistent earners have deep conviction for their process, deep conviction for how they're supporting their development and performance, the things that are responsible for their success. And that process has developed a level of trust that allows them to only participate when they're certain of market state, confident in their strategy, and committed to waiting for market alignment. In other words, successful traders, they do not make it up as they go along, all right? They never sit down and just think they're going to wing it. In other words, a successful trader is at a place where he knows exactly what he wants to do. He knows why they want to do it, knows how they're going to do it. They're just waiting for the market to align to tell them when to do it. And the tremendous advantage that traders have today because of the electronic environment is volume is known. And because volume is known, now we have a very powerful set of metrics that we can manipulate in our own way to get a real clear understanding of where the momentum is in the market. And what I preach all the time is it's not about being first, it's about being right. And the only thing I'd like to say is if you're not spending time really developing awareness for these volume metrics, really have a good handle on how to use these momentum tools and their power, that's something that you really need to put some time into. But bottom line, again, that consistent earner, they get there because they're only trading when they know what they want to do, why they want to do it, how they're going to do it, and they've got the energy to sit there and wait for the market to tell them when. So the purpose of this presentation today is really to raise awareness for the significant opportunity you have to improve how you're supporting your development and raise awareness for how to better manage performance risk. And for many of you, it's probably going to introduce you to what performance risk is for the first time. Again, I can't stress enough how many traders I work with, unfortunately, have not been exposed to that. So what do we want to accomplish here over these next 30, 35 minutes? We want to make you aware of the significant competitive advantage to be gained by connecting high performance to intuitive function, and just how real that opportunity is and how achievable it is to improve your ability to filter, process, and apply information. And hopefully through this process we're going to demonstrate how and why learning to consistently achieve and sustain that deep intuitive state is going to be so essential to your development and your long-term success. So again, the basics, linking high performance to intuitive function, it lets us know precisely what it means to be our best and how to get there. It makes it tangible. It takes all the anxiety away from not knowing if we're doing the right thing to best support ourselves. And I can't stress this enough. To most people, intuitive function, it's something very abstract. To them it means no more than trusting their gut, or they can't explain it in any greater detail than trusting their gut. Bottom line, identifiable elements cause intuitive function to occur, an alignment of very specific beliefs and behaviors best support development of those elements. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to develop yourself in this process. In other words, you don't need an IQ of $160, a college degree, years of trading experience. You don't need any of that. What you do need is the desire to develop a more complete understanding for your obligations. In other words, the work that you need to do to develop yourself as a trader, and the desire to more deeply commit yourself to fulfilling them. That's all it takes. So, secondary functions, and I'm going to build this into a pyramid in a minute, but they represent the work, the tasks, if you will, tasks and activities that we have to effectively complete and repeat to become intuitive. We've got to make them intuitive. And the overwhelming majority of trading and non-trading professionals significantly underperform and fail because they become overwhelmed by the work. In other words, they never step back to develop a complete enough understanding for what they're doing, why they're doing it, or how best to support their efforts. And this lack of awareness, this lack of understanding, keeps them from becoming aware of the subtleties that really make the difference between success and failure. And it's those subtleties that really inspire and compel us to change, to modify our behavior. And because they don't have that awareness, they can't build the self or earn the cultural trust that intuitive function is dependent upon. And that happens because they've either ignored, taken for granted, or never developed awareness for the primary beliefs and key behaviors that best support them in doing the work. In other words, they don't have this foundation in place. And this is one of the biggest aha moments that people take this course, either as a trader or as a business professional. They're just amazed that no one ever made them aware of this foundation before. So intuitive development ensures that we're going to embrace and assimilate the beliefs and behaviors that are essential for building that self and cultural trust. And that trust is essential for intuitive function. In other words, it cannot occur unless both self and cultural trust are present. So I want to bring out the rest of the pyramid here real quick. When someone claims to always give 100% or more, or asks others to do the same, they highlight just how incomplete their understanding is for performance dynamics. Bottom line, we only have 100% to give. We can only realize it through peak performance triggered by intuitive function. And again, intuitive function is dependent upon both self and cultural trust. Because that alignment is essential, the reality is we very infrequently realize our potential. So by linking high performance to intuitive function, we become inspired and compelled to embrace and assimilate beliefs and behaviors best supporting us in doing the work. In other words, create high probability we're going to effectively complete and repeat the tasks we need until they become intuitive. Build and earn that trust that'll trigger peak performance so we can realize our potential and expand it. So everyone performs intuitively to some degree. The most successful outperform by consistently achieving and sustaining a deeper intuitive state. And this empowers them to anticipate and respond to opportunity and adversity before their competitors. Now, when you look at this image, what I'd like each of you to do for a moment is imagine each piece of die is a piece of information, and all of them are simultaneously demanding our attention. Now, if I could work my best magic, I would animate this image, and all these dice would be flying out of the computer screen at us. And if we had safety goggles around, you know, the kind we used to have in, let's say, chem lab or whatever, and can put those on and maybe cover up our nose and mouth so we don't get our teeth knocked out, and look far enough into the background, we would just see a wall of information coming to smother us. And that is exactly the dynamic that's at work. Because of the accelerating evolution of technology, it's just constantly increasing the volume and rate of information distribution. Then you toss in the expanding global economy, the increasing frequency of destabilizing geopolitical events, and we catch on real quick just how overwhelming this information can be, and just how real that threat is of being overwhelmed and smothered. And unfortunately, that's happening to the overwhelming majority of traders and now business professionals. So what successful traders have learned to do is they create filters to get rid of all the information irrelevant to their objectives. And by going through that process, what they're really doing is harnessing their energy to focus on what matters most. And this places them into a process that empowers them to apply information most effectively. So to get a physiological understanding of intuitive function, our brain cycles at 4 different speeds. And the highest cycle rate, that's when we're in beta. We're on information overload. In other words, the first time I ever went out on the trading floor back in November of 1982, it was the old Merc between Canal and the river on Adams. I was in full-blown beta. You know, I knew what trading was, talked about it. I'd seen it on the financial section of the news. But, you know, nothing can prepare you for going onto the floor and just witnessing all the different colored coats, the noise, all the mechanics, the pushing, the shoving, the yelling, the screaming, quote boards, paper flying, cards flying. You could still smoke on the floor back then. Again, I was like a deer in the headlights. I couldn't process the information. And we can't function, we're in beta. We're in shutdown mode. Either we're relying, we're completely dependent upon someone else for decision making, or we're going to flee. Where we need to be for intuitive function to occur is alpha. When we're in alpha, we trust our environment, we trust ourselves to participate in it. Now here's the key thing to remember. As I said before, all of us perform intuitively to some degree. The most successful, the ones who consistently outperform everyone else, they get to a deeper intuitive state. They get to a deeper state in alpha. And again, linking high performance to intuitive function develops the understanding, the knowledge, the tools to keep taking ourselves to that deeper alpha state. And then we won't worry about those other states right now. Just keep in mind, we have to be in alpha for intuitive function to occur, and we want to support our development and performance in a way that we can keep taking ourselves to a deeper state, and that gives us the significant advantage of anticipating and responding to opportunity before others. So what keeps us from getting into that deeper alpha state? It's our blind spots. It's our blind spots. And the first is created by the difference between what we believe we know and the actual depth of our knowledge. And here's the deal. Again, this goes back to Mike and John's comments. Mike understanding what matters most, where he's putting his energy in all the time, is to develop that deeper understanding, making sure he's providing himself with the guidance he needs to gain and make the most out of his experience, aptitude, strengthen that desire. But it's a lack of all these things that create the blind spot, this first blind spot. And the biggest culprit is our ego. And I guarantee you, your ego has probably gotten the best of you a half a dozen times since I started speaking, and you don't even know it. What happens is we all have egos. And whenever our ego hears a familiar word or phrase, guess what? It stops listening. Jumps back into the memory bank, plays whatever tape that's embedded, whatever meaning they've associated with the word or phrase that you've heard me say. And your ego plays that tape, pats yourself on the back, tells you how damn smart you are. And for that 15, 20, 30, 60, 90 seconds you're away, you've totally blacked out. You haven't heard anything I've said. And then you come back in and you're playing catch-up. But here's the scary part. For that little time that you're blacked out, that you're away while our ego is stroking itself, that's when you lose awareness for those little nuggets, that little piece that's going to allow you to more deeply understand, allow you to become aware of the subtleties making the difference between success and failure. And that's where our ego kills us every time. It takes things that are familiar, it wants us to believe we know everything so it can stroke itself, and then we go on. And that's why folks get stuck in that secondary function level of the pyramid, because their ego tells them how great, how smart, how wonderful we are. We know everything. All these other people are idiots. So the key to really moving forward is shutting down that ego so we can begin to develop a more complete understanding. So the second blind spot is created by the difference between how we perceive our behavior and the reality of our conduct. Yep, I'm trading with the stop. Yep, I'm following my daily loss limit. Yep, I'm following my weekly loss limit. Yep, I'm only trading when I'm certain of state, confident in strategy, committed to waiting for market alignment. Yep, I'm definitely able to wait. Nope, I don't need to be first. I just want to be right. Well, BS. As I can tell you time and again, we break down on all of those things, and we don't even know we're doing it. There's a series of events that sneaks up on us and takes us off course. And when that happens, we may think we're certain, confident, and committed, but we're not. We have no patience. We're not waiting for alignment. We're jumping in, we're jumping out, doing all sorts of dumb things. And in the process, really sabotaging ourselves, our development, and the likelihood that we're going to succeed as a trader. So again, successful traders, we only want to participate when we're certain, confident, and committed. So how do we shrink the blind spots? How do we shrink them? Well, we do it by developing a more complete understanding for the work. And again, everyone's looking at those secondary functions. Yeah, you know, I got to figure out state, strategy, alignment, execution, all these tools. Well, you know what? You're focusing on the wrong things. In other words, when we really understand what matters most, they'll tell us how we need to focus on those things. In other words, we'll have awareness for the gaps. We'll have awareness for the strengths that we can leverage. But unfortunately, because most folks either ignore, never develop awareness for, or take for granted those primary beliefs and behaviors, they can't get there. So the first thing that has to happen is we've got to shut down the ego so we can start asking ourselves the questions that are going to expand our awareness for the work that needs to be done. In other words, ask ourselves constantly so we can keep taking ourselves to a deeper level of understanding for what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how best to support ourselves in getting it done. And it's those answers that inspire and compel us to modify our behavior, take the variation out of our performance, make us more consistent, make us aware of the subtleties making the difference between success and failure. And when we're doing that, it increases the probability we're going to become more certain, confident, committed, because it's going to be elevating our self-trust. And when we have that trust, when we have conviction for our beliefs, when we're committed to assimilating the behaviors that are best supporting our development performance, that leads to the conviction, the trust, that creates a high probability we're only going to participate in the market when we're certain of state, confident in strategy, and committed to waiting for market alignment. And again, those are the only conditions. I know what I want to do. I know why I want to do it. I know how I'm going to do it. I'm just waiting for the market to tell me when. So another way to develop perspective for just how little we know about the work, consider the disconnect between technology and economic well-being. And I could probably make the slope of this technology line much steeper, but you know, I guess I wanted to have a symmetric image here. But think about it. If we really had the what, the why, and the how down pat, man, we'd have incredible abundance. We'd be fully leveraging technology. No one would be caring about the presidential debate tonight. It wouldn't make any difference. We'd have optimized our performance. We'd be in a great place. But we're not. So when we link high performance to intuitive function, again, that opens up the gateway to understanding. That helps us to start to ask the right questions, to develop the knowledge and tools to find the answers to those questions and apply them. And that's when we're really supporting our development and performance. That's when we're getting to that deeper understanding for the what, the why, and the how, building that trust that allows us to become certain, confident, and committed. So I want to talk about the energy equation. And before I do this, I want everyone that's listening, please take both hands, put them palm down on the table in front of you. Bring them up about 10 inches. And I want you to imagine the space between the palm of your right hand and the desktop is anxiety, and the palm of your left hand and the desktop is energy. And they move inversely to each other. In other words, if I push anxiety down, energy rises. If I allow anxiety to rise, energy is going to go down. All right? So I'm just going to give everyone a minute to play with that. If you haven't done it, just humor me. Take your two hands about 10 inches off the table. If we push anxiety down, we're going to drive energy up. If we allow anxiety to rise, energy is going to go down. Real simple, but incredibly powerful. So successful professionals get this. Successful traders and business people get this. And the way they push anxiety down and drive energy up, the way they do that is really, really simple. As long as they can keep their ego shut down. And that's what genuine professionals have done. They understand how dangerous their ego is. They keep it shut down. They've got it locked away. They understand they can always learn. They understand they always have to learn if they're going to remain competitive. And it's through that developing a more complete understanding for the things that we can control, that's how we push anxiety down. And the more we understand the things we can control, the more aware we become of the things that we can't. The easier it is to step away and let go. So two things are pushing anxiety down: developing that more complete understanding and letting go of what we can't control. So whenever you've got anxiety, put your two hands out in front of you and ask yourself a couple questions. Am I worrying about something I can't control? Okay, that's good. I can fix it by taking a breath and developing a more complete understanding for it. If I'm worrying about something that I can't control, I'm an idiot. Let go of it. And again, it's embracing beliefs and assimilating behaviors that create the highest probability we're going to use this energy equation to our advantage. So I want to give you guys a little test. Close of business, March 2nd. Happened to be unemployment. I went to Yahoo Finance. I looked up the book value of the CME. Book value is assets less liabilities. It's $0.9 billion or $900 million. Capitalized value was $19.1 billion. That's shares outstanding times the stock price. You'll see here it's a spread of almost $18.2 billion. All right, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to answer this question, and please write it down on a piece of paper so when I give the answer, you don't say to yourself, yep, I got that, because that's what your ego wants you to believe. Okay? So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to describe what that difference between capitalized value and book value represents. And I'm going to shut up here for 30 seconds. And then I'm going to come back and tell you the answer. Please make sure you write it down so you don't let your ego cheat you. All right. As a test, proctors used to say pencils down. That difference between capitalized value and book value represents one thing. 5-letter word, trust. T-R-U-S-T. That's all it is. It's all it is. In other words, that's the only reason anyone buys a stock. The only reason anyone buys a bond. Because they trust it's going to go up in value for the stock. They trust they'll be paid the dividends on their bond. And that they'll get their capital back when they cash that bond in. The only reason we do anything as far as buying a stock or buying a bond is because we trust it's going to go up in value. And so if you were off on whatever exercise that analysts and MBAs go through to justify the difference between book and capitalized value, or the capitalized value and earnings is another ratio people like to look at, the multiple, you know what? That's fine comparing stock to stock, what that multiple is or what the spread is. You know, if you're looking at stocks in the same sector and trying to figure out value. But bottom line, that spread, one thing, trust, period. That's a great thing about capitalism. Not perfect, but certainly the best, because it allows us to monetize trust. Forces us to make our intentions transparent so that trust can be created. And I'll let you guys think about that later on your own time. So here's the deal. Again, you guys want to appreciate how much our ego handicaps us? If our understanding for the power and construction of trust were complete, there wouldn't be any conflict. We would have realized our collective strengths. We'd be sharing abundance beyond our imaginations. We'd be falling over ourselves to help each other out. We'd be in paradise instead of struggling through economic uncertainty, imperfection, which is another nice way of saying ignorance, and corruption. But here's the good news. There is a massively huge opportunity, ginormous opportunity, to gain significant competitive advantage by developing a more complete understanding for the power and construction of trust. And this is precisely what happens because we've opened that gateway by linking high performance to intuitive function. And again, the process is really, really simple. All we have to do is be willing to develop a deeper understanding for our obligations and a stronger commitment to fulfilling them by being willing to develop a more complete understanding for what the work is that we need to do, why we're doing it, and how best to support our efforts. And that builds self and earns cultural trust. It gives us great conviction that we're doing the right things. And when that happens, we're connected more deeply to our work at a functional, psychological, and practical level. Again, that's a great thing about intuitive development. It's comprehensive. It's simultaneously addressing all of these things. And that's what it takes for us to become certain of purpose, confident in our ability, and committed to the task at hand. And it's that certainty, confidence, and commitment that harnesses and focuses our energy so we can have that great awareness to focus externally, to turn ourselves over so we can become consumed by the dynamics of the moment, develop that superior awareness we need to best anticipate and respond to price movement. To get to that deep state in alpha that we have to go if we're going to outperform competitors. So let's get into a summary here. I'll be done in about 3 minutes, and we can get into the Q&A. Again, our objective, we want to optimize competitive state. We do that by having the greatest awareness to best anticipate and respond to opportunity and adversity. Information and knowledge transfer makes that happen, okay? In relationships, and guys, this is huge, relationships, not technology, are the truest drivers of information and knowledge transfer, the truest drivers of communication, period. Yep, technology is very powerful, wonderful, makes it easy, makes us immediately accessible to each other. But guess what? None of that's going to happen unless we trust each other, because that's what relationships are built on. And that trust doesn't exist without truth. Truth is an absolute that has to be there. And truth is simply this: we either did the work or we didn't. And the great thing about intuitive development, linking high performance to intuitive function, it lets us precisely know that we did the work. It lets us precisely know what the work is, why we're doing it, and how best to support ourselves in getting it done. There's no doubt that we did the work. We trust ourselves. Those relationships are there. Now you might be thinking to yourself, hey, I'm an independent trader. I don't need any stinking relationships. Well, remember what intuitive function is. It's the unconscious application of our creativity and imagination, integrating our skill, knowledge, and experience. Count with me for a second. Creativity, imagination, skill, knowledge, experience, all of those things are having an incredible internal conversation in about a nanosecond so we can bring to bear all the best we have to offer. So I guarantee you, if you don't have great certainty that you've done the work, you're not going to trust yourself. And those conversations are not going to take place. There isn't going to be any information to transfer because you wouldn't have developed the awareness to generate it. So absolutes lead us to the truth. Absolutes let us know if we've done the work or not. And unfortunately, we live in a culture that does everything it can to discourage absolutes. Because with absolutes, there's accountability. And no one wants accountability for some reason. I think they're all scared of this litigious culture that we're in. Screw them. You got to know right from wrong. You know right from wrong, you'll have the awareness to make the judgments you need to get into that deep intuitive state and have that great competitive advantage, period. So, you know, everyone that's out there worrying about making a judgment, worrying about having their heart on their sleeve, all I can say is stop being a coward. Step up. Judge right from wrong, good from evil, whether your acts or the acts of others improve the human condition or corrupt it. Because here's the deal. If you can't step up and make good judgments in your personal life, you're going to fail miserably as a trader. You will not have the confidence. You will not have the awareness. You will not have the fortitude. You will not have the perseverance you need to go deeper, 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 and hang in there and succeed. And the way I like to explain absolutes, every major league infielder has perfected what's called perfect fielding position. In other words, if you took every major league infielder with the exception of a left-handed first baseman, lined them up at shortstop, did them all the same high chopper to the third base side, and filmed them all, you could later break down every one of them and go frame by frame, and you would see the same 16 elements of PFP, perfect fielding position. Why? Because it places them in the best position to field and throw the baseball. It embeds the muscle memory that allows them to make the great plays we see on baseball tonight in the highlights. And here's the deal. For traders, there's absolutes. Those absolutes are represented by the beliefs and behaviors that we have to embrace and assimilate that empower us to develop the awareness we need to best anticipate and respond to price movement. And that's what intuitive development makes us aware of. Again, go back to that pyramid, that foundation that has to be there, and that's what intuitive development is all about. So here's the deal. And Johnny, Hoag, you'll remember this. I think it's a hotel that, I don't know if it's a Swiss hotel or whatever, but right across the street from the old Merck now on Wacker, but right across on the northeast corner there of Wacker and Monroe. Big silver curved building. I think it's about 65, 70 stories tall. We could look down over all the construction walls and barriers and watch them and all the foundational work they did to bring this building out of the ground. And I think it took them, over a year for everything that they had to do in prepping the site before they could come out of the ground. And then once they came out of the ground, things moved pretty quickly. but it takes a long time to build that foundation. Long, long time. And as traders, the way we start that process is gaining perspective. Again, we've got to get to the point where our aptitude and desire are aligned so we can move forward. And when they're aligned, that's when we've harnessed our energy. Now we can start doing the work to build that framework we need to support our development performance. And that's where intuitive development comes in. It really gets us to the place where we can develop great awareness for the what, the why, and the how. Build that trust that will allow us to become certain, confident, and committed, create that energy that's going to place us in the best position to compete because of the awareness it allows us to develop. That's where we have to get to before we can come out of the ground as a trader. It takes a long time to get there. It's hard. That's why so many traders fail, because they don't want to work that hard. They don't want to do the work, or they just don't know how. They don't have the guidance. Or their ego gets in the way and keeps telling them they're too smart, that they don't have to take the time to really break things down and unpack things the way they need to understand them. But once we get there, once we start becoming that consistent earner, we've got that positive momentum. In other words, it's that positive momentum that allows us to have sustainable gains. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Good things are happening. And at that point, we really start to enjoy the dynamics of success. And that's what's really going to accelerate our development. And that dynamic of success is simply this. We've created an environment that eliminates distraction and conflict and causes information and knowledge to flow to us. And then all sorts of other things happen after that I don't have enough time to speak to right now, but it just keeps getting better and better. So again, we want to get to that point where we're only trading when we're certain, confident, and committed. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of time to build that foundation. And the way we accelerate that process is, number one, shutting down that ego. Shut it down. Shut it down. And understand that to be successful as a trader, you have to keep developing a more complete understanding for what you believe you already know every single day. And certainly I invite all of you guys to do that. So I just want to introduce Intuitive Development, the course, real quick for about 30 seconds here, and then there'll be a sign-up piece, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. And like I said, I'm in no rush. I'll be happy to stay on until about 5 o'clock answering questions, so I don't want anyone having anxiety over not getting the questions answered. So bottom line, what Intuitive Development does, it gives us the understanding, the knowledge, and the tools we need to generate that energy, to do the work, to develop that deeper understanding, so we can get to the point where we're certain, confident, committed, create that competitive advantage by getting into a deeper state of alpha to better anticipate and respond to price movement. What IDT does not do, I don't spend any time discussing methods for identifying state or structure. Don't talk about strategies. Don't talk about market alignment. I don't talk about execution. That's all for somebody else. I talk about creating that great awareness to best anticipate and respond to price movement. So if that interests you, and I certainly hope it does, and I invite all of you to take advantage of it. The course itself, it's 4 sessions. It's almost 9 hours of training. It's all live. I present it online using Citrix, the same tool that Mike uses here. The session on Monday goes from 4 until about 6:45, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's about 2 hours from 4 to 6. The retail cost for this is normally $500. Big Mike special, $201. Here's the deal: that coupon expires a week from Monday. If you want to sign up, you go to TopstepTrader. Pay attention. Pay attention. I don't want you to have to be sending emails off to TopStep or Big Mike because you don't know how to do the registration correctly. Here's the deal. Go to TopstepTrader.com/IDT sign up. You're going to see a little box that says use scouting prospect code box. Check that box. Another window will open. And then it says for a code, no spaces. Type in Big Mike's IDT just the way you see it on the screen, and you'll get the discount. All right, so I'm going to shut up, get a drink of water. I'm going to ask Mike to moderate on the questions. I see them, but there may have been others that have come through, so I'm going to let him basically throw the questions out there, and we'll go from there.
Well, first, I really want to thank you, Ray. I thought it was a fantastic presentation and one that I'm going to watch at least one more time again. So before I dive into my usual questions that I've been accumulating in a notepad over here, I also want to invite anyone in the room to go ahead and type their question, and we can get to those too. So I don't even know where to start. You hit on so many things. One of the things that you really emphasized that I am a big believer on is the accountability. And what I see happening a lot is that people, I don't know if it's that they don't know how to be accountable or really what's going on, but I see people struggling with the accountability all the time. And there's so many different angles, and it's such a big topic, and it's really complex. But you know, what is your take on people that, I mean, let's eliminate the people that are just not serious. You know, they're not taking trading serious, because, you know, there are those people. Let's try to focus on the people that are living and breathing trading, and they're really trying, but they're still struggling, and they're trying to find that next step, and they're looking left or looking right. They don't know what to do. They question everything. You know, those people have a really hard time in defining what the problem is, and I find that they are usually the problem. You know, like you said, it's very rarely the methodology, you know, which is where everyone spends all their time. It's really all about the trader themselves. You know, can you expand on that?
Absolutely. And accountability is everything. Number one, the biggest threat to accountability is our ego. Okay? If we're not willing to say, hey, you know what, I can learn, I need help, I have to figure out how to go deeper, right? That's number one. But again, everyone has an ego, and we don't even know when it's sabotaging ourselves. So that's number one. Number two, we're sabotaged culturally all the time, all the time. And I really get into that in the training, and I have to lay a foundation to have that conversation to bring those points out. So it would be more confusing than anything if I tried to go there right now. But there is, I just can't tell you how many things are happening culturally that are sabotaging us, that are discouraging us for achieving the level of accountability we need to be successful as a trader. And yes, those are huge things, but the two biggest things why we can't get there is, number one, ego, and number two, the way we're being culturally sabotaged. And I get into those things in detail in the training.
And I noticed that one of the things that you emphasized also was, like, when you did the little pop quiz and you said everybody write down the answer. You know, I'm a big believer in that too, because I have learned from direct experience that a lot of times I would convince myself that I had done something correctly, or that I had, you know, when I think back, when I remember an event, I was completely wrong about what the actual facts were. You know, I think back to a trade where I thought I took a certain action. You know, it's dead set in my mind. I can see it. You know, whatever I'm saying is the truth. But you know what? It wasn't. I lied to myself. I tricked myself, you know, and it took a lot of work for me personally to uncover that first, and then second, to actually work on fixing it. And one of the things that I did was, you know, start a very detailed journal, including even a video journal, to try to help me with that. And I think a lot of people will struggle with that, because it's very hard to make forward progress when you can't trust the results that you think are accurate. One of the things
I was just going to say, there's tool sets that we get into in the training that really support folks in getting to that deeper level of understanding and the awareness that comes from that. You know, again, I will put it this way. I spend probably the first 4 hours, maybe a little bit more, of the presentation just going through a process to get people backed off their ego in a very, they don't know that I'm doing it, but that's what I'm doing. So I can get them to a point that they can actually start hearing things. And that's why this training is so effective, because I get them to a place where they can really start to learn again. And, you know, if you go to the TopstepTrader, the IDT program, you'll see some of the user comments and get better appreciation for that, or certainly John Hoagland can speak to that. Yeah, these are huge, huge barriers, and it's very perceptive of you, Mike.
I hear you saying ego a lot, and one of the things that I wrote down was, I look at it like, let's say that you sit down for the day, you know, at 7 a.m., clear your head, clear your thoughts. For me personally, I found that it was very important that I try not to have any bias on the day left over from the previous day. And I think, I want to see if you agree or not. I apologize for the background noise, by the way. That's my puppy chewing on a bone. I think that the bias is directly related to ego of wanting to be right. You know, if I convinced myself yesterday the market's going to go up, then today that bias may be lingering because I don't want to be wrong. Is that how you view it?
There's a whole bunch of things that go into it. And it all starts with the foundational understanding of what trading is all about. And when again, this gets back to managing performance risk, the beliefs and behaviors that best support our development performance, that best support us in doing the work. And it's those beliefs and behaviors that dramatically reduce that we're going to carry that bias from one day over to the next, because we're going to be so concerned with other things that are going to be way more effective, way more powerful in supporting development of market awareness, that really worrying about what direction the market's going into is just an afterthought.
Right. The one last thing that I wanted to say, and then I'm going to start reading all the questions from people here, is I find that a lot of people suffer from what I would call information overload or analysis paralysis. Basically, it's what I would describe as your inability to trust your original gut instinct. Do you have any comments on why that happens and what someone can do that is suffering from that ailment?
Well, again, they have to step all the way back and understand that what they're focusing on, they don't have a foundational understanding to make use of. That's why they can't react to it. In other words, without that foundational understanding, there isn't the trust to be able to process and apply that information. And so that's why they're stuck. And so
what I find,
they have to step back. They have to build a foundation for that to happen. And then here's the thing, the second part of it is that as we go along, even when we're in a process, we're all human. There's going to be times we get on overload, that we make mistakes, that we throw a wheel, that we're outside of the process. Okay? We have to recognize that. The training gives the tools and the knowledge to understand that, how to fix it, how to come back in, and then get back to a place where anxiety's gone, and we can get back in balance, draw on our strengths, and get ourselves back in that place where we have our composure. And once again, we know what we want to do. We know why we want to do it. We know how we're going to do it. And we've got the energy and patience to wait for the market to tell us when.
Right. Yeah. And I always find it amazing how complex we as traders can really make things. You know, you look at all of the stuff on people's charts and all to try to tell if it's going up or down. And it's kind of like a coping mechanism for, or maybe a better word would be an excuse or a way that you could blame someone other than yourself, a way that you don't have to take accountability.
Yeah, and again, this gets back into cultural sabotage, if you will. And then again, what's happening with technology. I can't tell you the debates I get into it with people. I tell them, look, you understand technology can never be a solution. All it is a tool. As soon as you think of technology as a solution, you're dead. In other words, there's zero incentive for you to think independently. And once you abdicate the responsibility to judge through independent thought, you're useless. You're just going to be deceived and exploited and just used for the purpose of someone else's benefit. And unfortunately, when you look at that disconnect between technology and economic well-being, when you look at job satisfaction, when you look at engagement, that's exactly what's happening out there.
Right.
And, you know, and the thing that kills me, you know, again, this presidential debate tonight, you know, doesn't matter to me where anybody is, just as long as they got there through their own independent thought and that they aren't somebody else's puppet.
Right.
And as traders, that's what we have to do too. Every decision we make, it's got to be our decision. It's got to be our process. And through that, we have the conviction to participate in the market.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And that's why we have to do the work to get there.
Right. Okay, let me start taking some questions and comments. So I see a message from Kevin. Kevin says that IDT was transformational to his development, not only as a trader, but as a man. And, you know, you said something early in the webinar that made me think of that, too. About 4 years ago, when I decided to go full-time as a trader, I quit my job and everything. It was rough. I had some hard times. And I have a webinar on the site that I taught for over 3 hours about this. But the short version is that I literally had to change the person that I was in order for me to become the trader that I needed to be or wanted to be. They're very tightly integrated, you know. You have to evaluate. I look at it as I literally changed or enhanced the person that I was in many more ways than just trading in order to improve my trading. I hope that makes sense, and I wonder if you
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. In other words, I will tell you this. The training that I give, the version of this training that I give for non-trading professionals is about 90% of the training that the traders get, because that's foundational. And what I tell people, worst case scenario, that you go through this and you understand that trading may be for you, or you get to some point in your development where you step away, all the time and effort that you spend with me, that's going to be 100% transferable to everything else that you do. In other words, you will take this stuff and you will get as much energy and benefit out of all your non-trading activities as you will your trading activities, because we start to see that everything's one and the same. We have to look at something as a massive energy field, if you will. And you know, people ask me about New Age and Zen and this, that, or the other. I say, well, look, if you want to go there, you know, go there. That's fine. I just look at it from common sense, from my own, you know, trading experiences, my own trader development, all the work that I've done with developing traders, being part of startups. I mean, I started out life as a CPA for Arthur Anderson in the Small Business Audit and Tax in Chicago. So I was in that terrible culture. I was in multiple client cultures as an auditor. And plus, I was privy to everything. I don't want to say everything, but a large portion of what was going on at the Merck with Globex and that whole battle of getting that approved in the very beginning back in 1987. And just when I talk about energy, I'm really sensitive to how essential it is and how powerful people are that get it, because they're the same in both the professional and personal lives. They're not Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And
Right.
That's a huge part of this.
Right. Karim asks if he's evaluated market state, he has confidence in his strategy, he is committed to his market alignment, basically all the things that you don't cover, and then the market goes a different way. What do you? His question is, quote, what do you suggest I do at that point? Do I reevaluate my plan? That's a complex question. Do you have a quick answer?
Well, I would just simply say, that's an ordinary and necessary part of doing business as a trader. In other words, that's going to happen at least 4 out of 10 times, maybe more. Get used to it. Deal with it.
You have to accept
develop a perspective that allows you how to do it. And that's one of the things that we do in the training. We teach people how to develop a perspective to deal with it. But losses are ordinary and necessary.
Right.
And again, we can believe we've done everything we can to get ourselves to that point, and we've waited. We're not worried about being first. We're sure that we're right. The momentum's there, everything else, and we're going to be wrong. Get out, step back.
Yep.
Look for the next opportunity.
Yeah.
Period.
You have to be okay with being wrong. Vance asks.
Absolutely.
He asks, in your work with all these different traders, what do you find the biggest differences are between the marginal traders and the high performance traders?
High performance traders are just have such certainty, confidence, and commitment. In other words, they have great conviction for how they're supporting their development and performance. Their anxiety is way, way down because they know they have themselves in the process they need to create the highest probability for their success. And that's what I help traders create. In other words, this isn't cookie cutter stuff. In other words, I'm not giving someone a 2x4 to take home with them and control their trading and their life. Not doing that at all.
Right.
I'm giving them the understanding, the knowledge, and the tools. They're taking that away to use those things in a way that are going to be most relevant to their objectives.
And building on that, Futures Operator asks, are there any prerequisites that you would recommend prior to taking the IDT course? Is there any level of experience that someone really needs first?
No, just the only prerequisite is don't try and figure this stuff out before you come into the course. I tell people all the time, we bring in past knowledge with stuff, and we try and connect the dots to, really to stroke our own ego.
Yeah.
And I tell people, to come in, you got to leave all of that at the door, and you have to let me connect the dots. Trust me, through this 9 hours, no one's going to be brainwashed or anything like that. This is all about promoting, protecting, and inspiring independent thought.
Right.
At the end of the day, trading is and always will be an art form. And for us to be an artist, to be able to tap into our creativity and imagination, to be able to evolve with the market in real time, we have to think independently. And the more we trust ourselves, the more we're going to do that. And this course is all about building the trust so we can think independently in a very effective way, so we can be that artist and be able to evolve with the market in real time.
And for those in the room that are saying that this sounds similar to NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, what do you say about that?
People have told me that before. I think they're probably giving me too much credit. It all comes down to this. You either want to do the work or you don't. And I'm going to help you understand in a very precise way what that work is. And if you do it, good things will happen. You'll be energized. You're going to want to do more of it.
Right.
So I just keep it as simple as that.
Barney has a question. I'm going to expand on it just a little bit. Is there anything that you recommend, like an exercise or a mental exercise, when you start your day, or any, some people call it centering themselves or just calming down. How do you approach that? What do you do in order to?
Well, he's talking about rituals, and that's something that we get into in pretty good depth in the training. I guess the most important thing for people to understand that those rituals are going to evolve over time as we develop greater awareness, greater sensitivity for how best to support our development and performance. And I share some rituals of mine in the training. But bottom line, they're very private, a very individual thing. I put mine out there just as an example, as a template to give a starting point for people. But in other words, that's part of the individual discovery process. I mean, those have to be a product of your own journey in developing a more complete understanding for the what, the why, and the how.
And just like everything else, it's all based on your own individual strengths and weaknesses, right?
Absolutely.
Vance wants to know if he takes the program, does he have to take it on consecutive days, or could it be spread across multiple weeks?
I let people repeat it the following week. Here's the deal. I've got a session, an all-day session this Saturday. We're going to start at 9 a.m. Central, run to 5 p.m., take plenty of breaks in there so everyone stays fresh, so folks can get it all in one day in that format. And then they can also repeat it. I've got a session starting the next 2 consecutive Mondays, the 8th and the 15th. So those are their options. I think if anyone signs up, I would encourage everyone to sign up for this Saturday, and you'll be able to have it, I believe, the following 2 Mondays as well, so they could take it up to 3 times for that same cost.
Okay. And for the European guys, or
in other words, the one-time fee. In other words, it's a one-time fee.
Right. And for those that where the schedule is somewhat of a problem, I mean, do they need to be in the room live? Is it recordings that they can look at later? How does
not recorded. They're not allowed to record it.
Okay.
And they got to pay attention. And here's the other deal. I've been at this for a while, and the one thing I realized is when people have the opportunity of listening to a recording and try and learn from that, their effort and attention span on a scale of 1 to 10 is about a 2 or less. In other words, there's no incentive to have all the lights on, because they can hit the pause button, the rewind button, this, that, or the other.
Right. Okay.
So,
okay.
My stuff is all live.
I see that several questions here. Here's one from Jim saying that how is it possible to not have a bias, in the market? And if you always find yourself, I don't know how to rephrase this question so I can incorporate everyone's question into one, but basically I see several people saying that it's very hard to get rid of the ego or get rid of a bias. What do you say to that?
Well, if you're not willing to get rid of a bias or an ego, my advice right now would be shut down your trading account and go do something else, because you're going to fail. It's that simple. Save yourself a lot of money, time, and heartache. Right.
The biggest problem traders have is wanting to be right. Right.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we're doing this. We want to be right. We want to make money. But when you're truly, truly, truly in that deep intuitive state, you understand it's all about just keeping yourself in the best position to anticipate and respond to opportunity.
Right.
That's what matters most. That's what successful people focus on, period. Keeping themselves in the best position to anticipate and respond to opportunity and adversity. They don't think about the money. It's irrelevant. They understand if they keep themselves in the best position to compete, whatever that P&L ends up at, it's going to be optimized.
Right. And there's also not a direct link between being right and being profitable. You can be wrong a lot of times and make a lot more money. A lot of people focus on win percentages because it makes them feel good. But depending on what they're risking, those can be very costly to have a high win percentage. Okay, so I see a question from Craig that I thought was interesting. He says that you're stressing ego a lot, but he thinks that he has kind of the opposite problem, which is a lack of self-confidence. He says that this lack of self-confidence kind of makes him give up, and eventually that ends up with him either over-trading or just walking away. What do you think?
Here's the deal. Where does confidence come from? Trust. And the more we understand the what, the why, and the how, that's how we build up that confidence. That's how we build up that trust. So we're going to put a foundation in place that my expectation is would significantly increase the probability he's going to develop the confidence and trust he needs to move forward.
Jim is going back to your presentation where you talked about the first blind spot and a lack of understanding, experience, aptitude, and desire. he wants to know, what you do specifically to remove those 4 components of the blind spot.
Develop a more complete understanding for the depth of the trading challenge and how to meet it.
And I want to say something real quick. I've always found that a lot of people, they get kind of turned off by an answer that is not like an exact, how do I phrase this? If you don't give somebody the exact answer, go do this, and then now you're going to be a profitable trader, a lot of people can't handle that because it means that they have to actually, do work on their own and come up with their own.
Any instructor or so-called expert that says do this and you're going to be profitable, they should be thrown out of the business. Because here's the deal. Trading there's 3 aspects that have to be integrated: functional, psychological, and practical. And if you don't understand that as an instructor, you're worthless. And you're selling snake oil if you're telling anyone, if you're not communicating that those 3 things have to be integrated to create the awareness, the trust that's going to allow us to be effective. So you can't look at one aspect and say, hey, if you just do this functionally, you're going to be fine. It doesn't work that way. Or if you just have this psychological perspective, you're going to be fine. It doesn't work that way. Or if you just have this practical approach, it doesn't work that way. They all have to be integrated functionally, psychologically, and practically. There is no easy answer.
Right.
But there is an easy solution, and that's what intuitive development does, because, again, it opens up a gateway that really allows us to see how all of this stuff can easily come together, how achievable and sustainable it is.
Right. No, I completely agree. It took me quite a while and a lot of money to reach those conclusions. And I see some more comments, and it's kind of interesting timing. There was a new thread created on the forum today, and here's the title of the thread, quote, "Is trading psychology a hoax?" End quote. And there's always right this group of people that have a very difficult time accepting that psychology has any part in their trading. I mean, come on, I click a button, I either make money or I don't make money.
Right.
That seems to be. Yeah.
In here, psychology in and of itself is worthless. Again, it has to be integrated with the functional and practical part of trading. Go back to that anxiety equation, right? What we want to do is push anxiety down, drive energy way up, right? For that to happen, we have to be able to develop a more complete understanding for what we can control, let go of what we can't. Well, on the control side, there's functional components, psychological components, and practical components. And by the same token, there's functional, psychological, and practical components that we can't control and that we've got to let go of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually that's a really good point maybe that we should end on, because it's almost like, I mean, I'll say this much. Whenever I started full-time, I've been trading for 15 years, but I full-time for about 4 years. And I can tell you at the beginning, like let's say 4.5 years ago, I did not believe in psychology. And I'm not just talking about trading. I just mean in general. If you need to go talk to a therapist to work out your feelings, come on, get real. That doesn't mean anything. That used to be my belief, right? And I completely have changed my mind. These days, whenever I'm reading books, trading books, I don't read books on methodology. If a book is full of charts, it's not my kind of book. I read books on behavior and psychology, even that aren't about trading, and I get so much more out of those. And you really have to open up your mind. You really have to change some of the beliefs that maybe you've held on to for a long time. And a lot of people call that rewiring or unlearning, what you used to think was correct or the only way to do something. Do you agree with that?
I guess I'll use this metaphor, this analogy, if you will. I was a football player. I was a quarterback. And in high school, the first camp before my junior year, the varsity, it was the first time I really had any time with the varsity coach, and he came over to me and he said, Ray, hey, you've got to stop patting the football before you throw it. You're just slowing up your release, you're telegraphing your passes, and you know what? If you're going to keep doing that, I'm going to throw you at wide receiver, and you're going to place that in safety. So I spent the next 3 weeks, any time that I had, basically holding my right hand was my throwing hand, and I would have the ball in that hand, and I'd tuck my left hand behind my back, and I would drop and throw, and I was probably doing that a couple hundred times a day. And I got rid of that bad muscle memory. It took me 3 weeks to do that, and this is just throwing a football, okay? Not a big deal. Mechanical thing, no thought process. Hardest thing for me was just keeping my left hand behind my back, or my left arm behind my back, right? But the things that you're talking about that are embedded in our psyche, if you will, not to mention whatever else is embedded physiologically into us, these things take a long, long time to work through. And before you can start working through them, you have to get to a foundational understanding for why they exist, so you can have the conviction you need to do the work to change it. You see what I'm saying? And that's why we have to look at things from a functional, a psychological, and a practical standpoint, so that we can really understand why we're doing what we're doing, why it's hurting us, and then have the conviction to go back and change it, and more importantly, understand that the change is going to be achievable and sustainable, and that we're going to get rewarded for the work that it's going to require.
Right. So perhaps the last thing that I'll say, and then Ray, if you have any final words, is that if you're a trader that's maybe struggling and you've tried all the methodology things and you've changed your charts 100 times and you've tried all kinds of combinations and different things in order to make yourself a better trader, but you're just not finding success, then, you know, even if you're not 100% believing in the ability for the psychological approach or the intuitive approach to actually make a difference in your trading, you should at least give it a shot. I mean, if you're serious, if you really want to be a trader, then you've got to look at this. You've got to give it the opportunity. You've got to come at it with an open mind and really give it the opportunity that it deserves. And I think that you'll benefit from it personally. And I definitely want to thank Ray for all of his time today in answering everybody's questions and my questions, and for the great presentation. And I also want to thank John and TopstepTrader for introducing me to Ray and making this webinar a possibility. And Ray, did you have a contact slide, that last slide you want to throw up, and any final words?
Yeah, let me put it back up here. Just to be clear, there is a Saturday presentation. It may not be on the IDT side, but you guys, if you want, you know, in case you're worried about someone saying, oh, there is no Saturday, just do a capture of the slide. You'll see when special all-day sequence presented 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, October 6th. And then we've got a presentation Monday, the 8th and the 15th. All I can suggest is go register. And I have no doubt that this will be probably the best investment of your time and money in supporting your development. Like I said, worst case scenario, this is going to be absolutely portable to everything else that you do.
Right.
And, you know, Mike, thank you again. John, thank you again. And thank you to everyone else out there for trusting me with your time.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Big Mike. Thank you, Ray.
All right, guys, I'll post the recording of the webinar sometime tomorrow, and I'll send it to the Top Step guys and to Ray, and they can probably tweet about it as well, so you guys have the link for the recording. All right, guys, I'll see everybody on the forum, and talk to you guys later.